In the quiet hours of history, when civilizations rose and fell like whispers in the wind, our ancestors left behind puzzles that continue to baffle even our most brilliant scientists today. Welcome to an exploration of the most unsolved ancient mysteries that cannot be explained. A compilation of enigmas that challenge everything we thought we knew about human capability, ancient wisdom, and the very timeline of our civilization. Tonight, we'll journey through geometric impossibilities carved into desert floors, investigate cities that vanished without explanation, and examine artifacts that seem to defy the technological limitations of their time. Before we begin this mysterious journey together, I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. There's something magical about knowing we're all scattered across this planet, yet united in our curiosity about these ancient puzzles that have survived millennia to reach us. Now sit back and relax as we dive into unexplained ancient phenomena together. Our first stop takes us high above the Nazca Desert of Peru, where impossibly precise lines stretch across the barren landscape like messages written for gods. The Nazca lines, discovered in their full magnificence only when humans learned to fly, represent one of archaeology's most perplexing achievements. In 1927, archaeologist Toribio Mejia Chespe was the first to study these mysterious markings, but it wasn't until pilot Paul Kosok flew over them in 1939 that their true scope became apparent. What he saw defied explanation. Geometric patterns, animal figures, and straight lines extending for miles across the desert floor, visible only from hundreds of feet in the air. The precision is staggering. Some lines run perfectly straight for over 9 miles, deviating less than a few yards across their entire length. The hummingbird geoglyph measures 305 feet long, while the spider spans 150 feet, both created with mathematical accuracy that rivals modern surveying techniques. Recent satellite imagery has revealed over 1,400 individual designs, with new discoveries emerging as technology advances. Multiple theories attempt to explain their purpose. Maria Reicher, the German mathematician who devoted her life to studying them, proposed they functioned as an astronomical calendar, with certain lines pointing to celestial events. Others suggest they were part of water rituals, the precious resource that determined life and death in this arid landscape. The most controversial theory, popularized by Erich von Däniken, suggests they were landing strips for ancient astronauts. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed the sophisticated construction methods. The Nazca people removed the dark surface stones to expose lighter soil beneath, then carefully arranged the removed stones along the edges. But this raises an even deeper mystery. How did they maintain such precision across vast distances without aerial perspective? Modern attempts to recreate even simple Nazca lines using ancient tools have proven extraordinarily difficult. The cultural context deepens the enigma. The Nazca civilization flourished from 100 to 700 CE, known for their advanced understanding of underground water systems and remarkable pottery, yet they left no written records explaining these massive earthworks. Recent excavations have uncovered evidence of ritual sacrifice at line intersections, suggesting they held profound spiritual significance. Deep in Costa Rica's Diquis Delta, over 300 perfectly spherical stone balls rest in silent testimony to an unknown purpose. These granite and gabbro spheres range from a few inches to over 6 feet in diameter, with some weighing up to 15 tons. Their precision is remarkable. Many are accurate to within 2 millimeters of perfect spherical geometry. The spheres were first brought to scientific attention in the 1930s when the United Fruit Company cleared land for banana plantations. Workers discovered them arranged in straight lines and geometric patterns, though many were moved before archaeologists could document their original positions. Carbon dating of surrounding materials places their creation between 600 and 1000 CE during the height of the Diquis culture. Creating such perfect spheres would challenge even modern stoneworkers. Theories suggest the ancient craftsmen used controlled heating and cooling, perhaps combined with sand abrasion and wooden tools. But transporting these massive stones across jungle terrain to their final positions remains unexplained. The nearest quarry sites are miles away, across rivers and through dense forest. The sphere's cultural significance to pre-Columbian peoples remains largely mysterious. Some researchers propose they represented astronomical bodies or served as markers for important locations. Local indigenous legends speak of them as gifts from the gods, created when Tara, the god of thunder, used his blowgun to fire cannonballs at Circe, the god of wind and hurricanes. In the remote wilderness of Siberia's Yakutia region, local hunters speak of enormous metallic objects buried in the permafrost, structures they call olguis or cauldrons. These objects, described as smooth-edged metal hemispheres large enough to hold several people, have captured the imagination of researchers and conspiracy theorists alike. Russian research expeditions in the 20th century documented several of these anomalies. The structures appear to be made of an unknown copper-like alloy that remains sharp and unmarked despite centuries of exposure. Local Tungus and Yakut peoples have oral traditions warning against approaching these objects, claiming they bring sickness and death. The few documented expeditions that have reached these remote locations describe structures partially buried in the tundra, with walls several inches thick. Vegetation around some cauldrons reportedly grows unusually large and lush, while in other areas, nothing grows at all. The objects seem to generate heat, keeping the ground around them from freezing even in the harsh Siberian winter. Government restrictions and the extreme remoteness of the region have limited scientific investigation. The area experiences temperatures as low as 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and reaching the reported locations requires specialized equipment and guides familiar with the treacherous terrain. Most expeditions have been turned back by logistical challenges or official interference. Across the globe, other geometric mysteries persist. Ancient labyrinths carved into cliffsides and desert floors appear in cultures that had no contact with each other. Perfectly circular formations, too regular to be natural, but too ancient to be explained by known technology, dot landscapes from South America to Scandinavia. These patterns suggest a universal human drive to create geometric perfection, or perhaps knowledge that has been lost to time. History is punctuated by sudden endings, civilizations that simply vanished, leaving behind only questions carved in stone and whispered in legend. In the Indus River Valley of modern-day Pakistan lies one of archaeology's most haunting crime scenes. Mohenjo-Daro, whose name means Mound of the Dead, was once a thriving metropolis of the Harappan civilization, boasting sophisticated urban planning, advanced drainage systems, and a standardized system of weights and measures that wouldn't be seen again for centuries. When British archaeologist John Marshall first excavated the site in the 1920s, he uncovered a scene of sudden catastrophe. 44 human skeletons were found scattered throughout the city, not buried according to Harappan custom, but lying in streets and buildings as if struck down instantly while going about their daily lives. The positions of the bodies suggested they were fleeing something terrible. The most disturbing discovery was the evidence of extreme heat. Many of the skeletons showed signs of rapid heating, with some areas of the city displaying vitrification, sand and stone fused into glass by temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Pottery and metal objects were melted and fused together. Even more puzzling, some areas of the site still register higher than normal levels of radiation. Soviet nuclear physicist A. Gorbovsky noted that the epicenter of destruction appeared to be at the city's center, with radioactivity diminishing toward the edges, a pattern consistent with nuclear detonation. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe weapons called Brahmastra, capable of destroying entire armies with light brighter than 1,000 suns. However, mainstream archaeology proposes alternative explanations. Climate change may have caused the Indus River to shift course, leading to drought and abandonment. Disease epidemics could have struck suddenly. Invasions by Aryan tribes might explain the scattered remains, yet none of these theories adequately explain the vitrification or the seemingly instantaneous nature of the catastrophe. Recent ground-penetrating radar and electromagnetic surveys have revealed extensive underground structures still unexplored. Chemical analysis of the melted materials continues to puzzle scientists, as the composition doesn't match any known natural or technological process from the period. Around 1200 BCE, a cascade of civilizational collapses swept across the Mediterranean world like falling dominoes. The Mycenaean Greeks, the Hittite Empire, the Assyrians, and numerous other Bronze Age powers all experienced sudden decline or complete destruction within the span of a few generations. This period, known as the Bronze Age collapse, represents one of history's greatest mysteries. The collapse wasn't gradual, it was catastrophic. Great palaces were burned, cities were abandoned, and sophisticated writing systems disappeared entirely. Linear B, the writing system of Mycenaean Greece, wouldn't be deciphered until the 20th century because it vanished so completely from human memory. Trade networks that had connected the ancient world for centuries disintegrated overnight. Climate data from ice cores and tree rings reveals a period of cooling and drought beginning around 1250 BCE. The Mediterranean experienced significant climate disruption, with some regions becoming uninhabitable. However, climate change alone cannot explain the synchronized nature of the collapse across such diverse geographic regions. The mysterious Sea Peoples appear in Egyptian records during this period, described as raiders and invaders from the islands and coasts of the Northern Sea. They're credited with destroying numerous civilizations, but their own origins remain unknown. Some scholars suggest they were displaced populations fleeing their own catastrophes, while others propose they were professional military forces taking advantage of weakened states. Archaeological evidence shows the collapse wasn't uniform. Some regions experienced violent destruction, with layers of ash and burned debris. Others show gradual abandonment, as if populations simply walked away from their cities. Writing disappears, but pottery continues to be made, suggesting partial cultural continuity even amid political collapse. The economic ramifications were staggering. The Bronze Age economy depended on complex trade networks spanning thousands of miles. Tin from Britain, copper from Cyprus, and amber from the Baltic all flowed through interconnected trade routes. When these networks collapsed, the technology for making bronze was lost in many regions, forcing a regression to inferior iron tools. The possibility that ancient civilizations possessed nuclear weapons seems absurd, until you examine the evidence with an open mind. J. Robert Oppenheimer, father of the atomic bomb, famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita after witnessing the first nuclear test. "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." Less known is his response when asked if this was the first atomic bomb. He cryptically replied, "Yes, in modern times." Ancient Sanskrit texts contain surprisingly detailed descriptions of weapons that sound remarkably similar to nuclear devices. The Mahabharata describes the Brahmastra, a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, an incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as the thousand suns rose in all its splendor. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death. Vitrified stones, rock melted by extreme heat and rapidly cooled, appear at ancient sites worldwide. While natural explanations exist for some formations, others occur in patterns and locations that suggest artificial origin. The hill fort of Tapo in Scotland contains vitrified stones that required temperatures over 1900 degrees Fahrenheit to create, far beyond what ancient smelting techniques could achieve. David Davenport, an English researcher, spent decades studying the Mohenjo-Daro site. He claimed to have identified an epicenter of destruction measuring 150 feet in diameter, where everything was crystallized or melted. Streets radiating from this center show decreasing destruction, consistent with the pattern of atomic blasts. However, Mainstream science offers alternative explanations. Lightning strikes can create fulgurites, glass tubes formed by extreme heat. Volcanic activity can vitrify large areas. Ancient peoples did know how to create intense fires using bellows and specialized furnaces. The radioactive skeletons at Mohenjo-Daro may have absorbed radiation from naturally occurring uranium in the soil over thousands of years. The ancient nuclear war theory remains highly controversial, embraced by fringe researchers but dismissed by mainstream archaeology. Yet the questions it raises about the limits of ancient knowledge continue to intrigue investigators of humanity's mysterious past. These catastrophic events share common elements: sudden timing, widespread destruction, and limited historical records. Whether caused by natural disasters, warfare, or forces we don't yet understand, they remind us that even great civilizations can vanish almost overnight, leaving only fragments for future generations to puzzle over. Some ancient mysteries transcend earthly explanations, venturing into realms that challenge our understanding of time, space, and humanity's place in the cosmic order. The ancient astronaut theory gained prominence with Erich von Däniken's 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods, but the concept has deeper roots. Von Däniken proposed that extraterrestrial beings visited Earth in antiquity, influencing human development and leaving traces in ancient art, architecture, and mythology. Proponents point to numerous artifacts and artworks that seemingly depict modern technology. The Sumerian cylinder seals show figures wearing what appear to be wristwatches and carrying handbags. Cave paintings in Australia, dating back 5,000 years, depict figures with halos and antenna-like protrusions. The Maya astronaut carving in Pakal's tomb at Palenque appears to show a figure operating some kind of machinery. Sumerian texts speak of the Anunnaki, beings who came from heaven to earth. According to these ancient writings, these entities possessed advanced knowledge and technology, teaching humans agriculture, mathematics, and astronomy. The precision of ancient astronomical knowledge troubles some researchers. How did ancient peoples calculate the precession of the equinoxes, a 26,000-year cycle, without advanced instruments? The technological gap between certain ancient achievements and the supposed capabilities of their creators seems impossible to bridge. The precision of stone cutting at Pumapunku, the acoustic properties of ancient theatres, and the astronomical alignments of monuments worldwide suggest knowledge that surpasses what we'd expect from societies using bronze and stone tools. DNA analysis has revealed puzzling anomalies in human evolution. Our species experienced several apparent bottlenecks and sudden leaps in capability that don't align with gradual evolutionary models. Some researchers suggest these gaps might represent periods of genetic manipulation by advanced beings. However, mainstream archaeology offers more prosaic explanations. Ancient peoples were far more sophisticated than often assumed. They had centuries or millennia to develop techniques through trial and error. Apparent technological depictions in ancient art can usually be explained through cultural and religious contexts of the time. The ancient astronaut interpretation often involves cherry-picking evidence while ignoring more mundane explanations. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, maintains that while extraterrestrial life likely exists, the vast distances between stars make ancient visitation highly improbable. The lack of physical evidence, materials, or technologies clearly beyond ancient human capability remains a significant challenge to the theory. Ancient texts contain chronologies that don't align with modern historical understanding, creating what researchers call time anomalies. These discrepancies raise questions about how ancient peoples perceived and recorded time, or whether significant events have been lost to history. The Sumerian king list records rulers with impossibly long reigns, some lasting tens of thousands of years. Before the flood, kings reportedly ruled for periods of 43,200 or even 64,800 years. After the flood, Rains become more reasonable, though still extraordinary by modern standards. Similar patterns appear in other cultures: Egyptian pharaohs with millennium-long reigns, biblical patriarchs living nearly 1,000 years. Calendar inconsistencies plague ancient chronologies. The Maya long count calendar, remarkably accurate in its calculations, begins on a date that predates known Maya civilization by centuries. Egyptian astronomical records reference star positions that don't match their supposed dates of observation. These discrepancies suggest either advanced astronomical knowledge or chronological errors in our modern understanding. Archaeological dating sometimes contradicts written records. Carbon dating places certain events centuries earlier or later than historical accounts suggest. Radiocarbon dating has margins of error that can create apparent contradictions, but some discrepancies exceed any reasonable margin of error. Some researchers propose that ancient peoples experienced time differently, perhaps due to variations in Earth's rotation or orbital mechanics. Others suggest that certain dark ages in history were longer than traditionally believed, creating gaps in our chronological understanding. The most controversial theories propose that advanced ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of time's relative nature, understanding concepts that wouldn't be rediscovered until Einstein's theories of relativity. The phenomenon of missing time in historical records troubles chronologists. Entire centuries seem to vanish from some cultural records, while other periods appear compressed or extended beyond reasonable explanation. These anomalies might reflect incomplete historical preservation, but they could also indicate more fundamental gaps in our understanding of ancient chronology. Ancient and medieval records contain accounts of people bursting into flames without any external ignition source, a phenomenon known as spontaneous human combustion, SHC. While modern science struggles to explain this occurrence, historical documents from various cultures describe remarkably similar incidents across time and geography. The earliest recorded case appears in the 4th century, when Saint Augustine described a man in Milan who was consumed by flames that appeared to emanate from within his body. Medieval chronicles contain numerous accounts of people, often in states of deep meditation or religious ecstasy, suddenly igniting and being reduced to ash while their surroundings remained untouched. Danish anatomist Thomas Bartholin documented several cases in the 17th century, establishing many characteristics that define SHC. Victims are usually found reduced to ash from the torso up, with extremities often remaining intact. Surrounding materials show minimal fire damage, and the intense heat required to reduce a human body to ash over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit somehow doesn't spread to nearby flammable objects. Charles Dickens brought SHC to popular attention in Bleak House, where the character Krook dies from spontaneous combustion. This sparked scientific debate about the phenomenon's reality. Some physicians argued that alcohol consumption made the human body more flammable, while others proposed that internal gases could ignite under certain conditions. Modern forensic analysis has attempted to explain SHC through the wick effect, where clothing acts as a wick and body fat as fuel, creating a slow-burning fire that can reduce a body to ash over several hours. However, this explanation doesn't account for all reported characteristics, particularly the localized nature of the burning and the preservation of extremities. Ancient cultures often interpreted SHC as divine punishment or supernatural intervention. Hindu texts describe individuals achieving such intense spiritual states that their physical forms were consumed by inner fire. Taoist traditions speak of masters who could generate such internal heat that their bodies would spontaneously ignite during deep meditation. These cosmic and temporal anomalies challenge our linear understanding of history and humanity's development. Whether they represent misunderstood natural phenomena, gaps in our historical knowledge, or evidence of forces beyond our current comprehension, they remind us that the universe holds mysteries. Our ancestors may have understood better than we do. As we've seen, ancient phenomena often challenge our understanding of what was possible thousands of years ago. But perhaps even more intriguing are the civilizations themselves that created these mysteries, entire cultures that flourished and then vanished, leaving behind only traces of their existence and questions about their fate. Before we continue our journey into the next chapter about lost civilizations, I'd like to ask for your help. If you're enjoying this exploration of ancient mysteries, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're working toward reaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us continue bringing you these deep dives into history's greatest puzzles. Your engagement means the world to us. Throughout human history, certain civilizations have captured our imagination, not despite their disappearance, but because of it. These are the cultures that achieved greatness and then vanished so completely that only legends remain. No lost civilization has captured human imagination quite like Atlantis. First described by the Greek philosopher Plato around 360 BCE in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Atlantis was presented as a cautionary tale about hubris and moral decay. Yet for over 2 millennia, explorers, scholars, and dreamers have searched for this legendary island nation, convinced that Plato's account contained grains of historical truth. Plato's description was remarkably detailed. Atlantis was said to be larger than Libya and Asia combined, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. The island was arranged in concentric circles of water and land, connected by tunnels large enough for ships to pass through. At its centre stood a magnificent temple to Poseidon, covered in silver and gold with walls of brass. The Atlanteans were described as a noble and powerful people who initially governed wisely but eventually became corrupted by wealth and power. Their advanced technology included flying machines and crystal power sources. They possessed weapons capable of massive destruction and had conquered much of Europe and Africa. Their downfall came when they attempted to invade Athens, leading the gods to punish their arrogance by sinking the entire island in a single day and night of earthquakes and floods. Modern scholars debate whether Plato intended Atlantis as pure allegory, or if he based his account on historical events. The timing he provides, 9,000 years before his era, would place Atlantis' destruction around 9600 BCE, near the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were rising dramatically worldwide. The Minoan civilization of Crete offers the most compelling historical parallel. This Bronze Age culture reached its peak around 1600 BCE and was devastated by the catastrophic eruption of Thera, modern Santorini. The Minoans possessed advanced maritime technology, sophisticated art, and complex palace structures, with elaborate water management systems remarkably similar to Plato's description of Atlantis. Archaeological evidence from Akrotiri, a Minoan city preserved in volcanic ash on Santorini, reveals a remarkably advanced civilization. Multi-story buildings with running water, elaborate frescoes depicting maritime scenes, and evidence of long-distance trade connections all mirror elements of Plato's Atlantis. The Thera eruption, one of the largest volcanic events in recorded human history, would have generated tsunamis capable of devastating coastal civilizations across the Mediterranean. Other theories place Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean itself. Recent sonar mapping has revealed underwater formations off the coast of Spain that some researchers claim show geometric patterns too regular to be natural. The Azores Plateau, now mostly submerged, was above sea level during the Ice Age and could have supported a significant civilization. The Antarctica theory, while highly speculative, gained attention after World War II. Admiral Richard Byrd's expeditions revealed a continent far more complex than previously understood. Proponents argue that before the ice sheets formed, Antarctica could have supported advanced civilization. Satellite imagery has revealed what appear to be geometric structures beneath the ice, though most scientists attribute these to natural geological processes. Doggerland, the landmass that once connected Britain to continental Europe, offers another possibility. This region, now beneath the North Sea, was inhabited for thousands of years before rising sea levels submerged it around 6500 BCE. Archaeological discoveries on the seafloor have revealed evidence of human habitation, including tools, pottery, and the remains of settlements. Despite thousands of years of searching, no definitive physical evidence of Atlantis has been found. Modern oceanographic technology has mapped most of the world's ocean floors without discovering ruins matching Plato's description. Yet the search continues, driven by the tantalizing possibility that somewhere beneath the waves lies proof of humanity's greatest lost civilization. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, British explorer Percy Fawcett believed he would find the remnants of a lost civilization more advanced than any known in pre-Columbian America. He called it the City of Z, and his obsession with finding it would ultimately cost him his life and create one of exploration's greatest mysteries. Fawcett's conviction wasn't based on fantasy. During his surveys for the Royal Geographical Society in the early 1900s, he encountered indigenous peoples who spoke of great stone cities hidden in the forest. Portuguese documents from the 18th century described a massive ruined city discovered by bandeirantes, fortune hunters from São Paulo, complete with multi-story buildings, wide streets, and elaborate sculptures. In 1925, Fawcett set out on his final expedition with his son Jack and Jack's friend Raleigh Rimmel. They disappeared into the Amazon and were never seen again. Despite numerous rescue attempts and decades of speculation, their fate remains unknown. Their disappearance only added to the legend of the lost city they sought. For nearly a century, Fawcett's quest was dismissed as the fantasy of an obsessed explorer. The prevailing archaeological opinion held that the Amazon's poor soils couldn't support large populations. The rainforest was seen as a pristine wilderness where small tribes lived in harmony with nature, unchanged for millennia. This perspective changed dramatically with the advent of LiDAR technology. Light detection and ranging sensors mounted on aircraft can penetrate forest canopy to map ground features invisible from the surface. Beginning in the 2000s, LiDAR surveys of the Amazon began revealing an entirely different picture of pre-Columbian civilization. The technology unveiled massive earthworks covering thousands of square miles. Geometric patterns, raised platforms, and canal systems emerged from the delta, indicating sophisticated urban planning and environmental management. These discoveries suggested that the Amazon had supported populations in the millions, not thousands as previously believed. The scale of these ancient modifications to the landscape is staggering. In the Brazilian state of Acre alone, over 450 large geometric earthworks have been identified. These geoglyphs, some over 1,000 feet across, required moving millions of tons of earth. They're connected by ancient roads and surrounded by evidence of large settlements. Perhaps most remarkably, researchers discovered that the Amazon itself may be largely artificial. What European explorers took for pristine wilderness was actually a carefully managed landscape. The indigenous peoples had created forest gardens, areas where useful plants were concentrated and maintained. They developed terra preta, or Amazon dark earth, incredibly fertile soil created through human activity that remains productive centuries after abandonment. Spanish conquistador Francisco de Orellana's 1542 journey down the Amazon described densely populated riverbanks with cities stretching for miles. His accounts were long dismissed as exaggeration, but archaeological evidence now supports his observations. The indigenous population of the Amazon may have exceeded 20 million before European diseases devastated native communities. The sophistication of Amazonian civilization extended far beyond basic agriculture. Archaeological sites reveal evidence of specialized craftsmanship, long-distance trade networks, and complex social hierarchies. Pottery styles show influences from cultures thousands of miles away, indicating extensive contact networks across South America. Climate change studies reveal that these civilizations flourished despite, or perhaps because of, significant environmental challenges. The Amazon experienced periods of drought and flooding that would have required sophisticated water management. The earthworks and raised field systems demonstrate remarkable engineering capabilities in adapting to environmental variation. Modern indigenous peoples maintain oral traditions that speak of their ancestors, great cities, and advanced knowledge. These stories, long dismissed by academics, are now being re-evaluated in light of archaeological discoveries. The integration of indigenous knowledge with modern technology is revealing new sites and providing insights into ancient Amazonian life. In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, 19th century scientists theorized the existence of a lost continent they called Lemuria, later popularized as Mu. This hypothetical landmass was proposed to explain the distribution of lemur fossils and the geological similarities between Madagascar, India, and Southeast Asia before the theory of continental drift was established. British geologist Philip Sclater first coined the term Lemuria in 1864, naming it after the lemur fossils found in both Madagascar and India, but nowhere in between. Scientists of the era couldn't explain how these animals had crossed the Indian Ocean, leading them to hypothesize a land bridge or continent that had since sunk beneath the waves. The concept gained romantic elaboration through James Churchward, a British occultist who claimed to have learned of Mu from ancient tablets discovered in India. According to Churchward's account, Mu was a continent in the Pacific that supported a civilization of 64 million people. This advanced culture supposedly possessed flying machines, understood atomic energy, and served as the mother civilization from which all others descended. Churchward described Mu as a tropical paradise stretching from Hawaii to Easter Island, with its capital located near present-day Samoa. The continent allegedly sank into the ocean around 12,000 years ago due to gas-filled chambers beneath the Earth collapsing. Survivors scattered across the Pacific, carrying fragments of Mu's advanced knowledge to found civilizations in Asia, the Americas, and beyond. Modern geology has largely debunked the existence of Lemuria or Mu, as described by 19th century theorists. The theory of plate tectonics explains the distribution of fossils and geological formations without requiring sunken continents. The ocean floor of the Pacific shows no evidence of continental crust that would indicate a landmass as large as Mu supposedly was. However, the Pacific did contain land masses that have since been submerged. Sundaland connected Southeast Asia to Indonesia and Australia during periods of lower sea level. This region supported significant human populations and may have been the source of advanced maritime cultures that spread across the Pacific. When sea levels rose at the end of the Ice Age, Sundaland was largely submerged, potentially creating legends of a lost homeland. Archaeological evidence does support connections between Pacific cultures that suggest either common origins or extensive ancient contact. Similar architectural styles, artistic motifs, and astronomical knowledge appear across islands, separated by thousands of miles of ocean. Easter Island's Moai statues, Hawaiian temple platforms, and megalithic structures in Micronesia show remarkable similarities that hint at shared cultural traditions. Underwater archaeology in the Pacific has revealed submerged landscapes that were above sea level during the last ice age. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument presents structures that some researchers argue are too regular to be natural formations. Similar underwater features have been found throughout the Pacific, though their origins remain debated. The oral traditions of Pacific Islanders contain remarkably consistent accounts of a great flood that destroyed an ancestral homeland. These stories, found from Hawaii to New Zealand, describe survivors fleeing in boats to establish new settlements on scattered islands. While these legends don't prove the existence of Mu, they may preserve memories of actual climatic catastrophes that reshaped the Pacific. Off the coast of Yonaguni Island, Japan's westernmost point, lies one of the most controversial underwater discoveries of the modern era. First brought to scientific attention by diving instructor Kihachiro Aratake in 1986, The Yonaguni monument presents a series of stepped terraces, straight edges, and right angles that challenge our understanding of natural rock formation. The structure measures approximately 490 feet long, 130 feet wide, and 90 feet high. Its most striking features include what appear to be stepped pyramids, wide terraces connected by narrow passages, and a formation dubbed the turtle for its distinctive shape. The precision of these features has led some researchers to argue they represent the remains of an ancient civilization, possibly predating the end of the last ice age. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus has spent decades studying the monument. He points to features that seem too regular for natural formation: tool marks on surfaces, holes that appear deliberately carved, and geometric patterns that would be unlikely to occur naturally. Kimura argues that while the base structure may be natural, it was modified and enhanced by human activity. The dating of the monument depends on when the area was last above sea level. Sea level studies indicate that the Yonaguni area was dry land during the last glacial maximum, approximately 20,000 years ago. If the structures are artificial, they would represent some of the oldest monumental architecture known, predating Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids by thousands of years. However, mainstream geology offers natural explanations for the monument's features. The rock formation is composed of very fine sandstones and mudstones that can fracture along natural lines, creating the appearance of artificial steps and walls. Tidal action and underwater currents over thousands of years could have carved the seemingly artificial features. Boston University geologist Robert Schoch, famous for his controversial early dating of the Sphinx, has examined the Yonaguni monument and concluded it's primarily a natural formation. While acknowledging that some features are unusual, he argues that the structure lacks the clear tool marks and deliberate modifications expected of human construction. The controversy extends beyond geology to archaeology and anthropology. If the monument is artificial, it would revolutionize our understanding of prehistoric Asian civilizations. No known culture from the required time period possessed the technology and organization to create such massive stone constructions, particularly given that agriculture was just being developed in other parts of the world. History is filled with civilizations that left clear evidence of their existence, but vanished so completely that we know almost nothing about their ultimate fate. These mysterious disappearances continue to puzzle historians and archaeologists. In the twilight of the Bronze Age, a mysterious confederation of maritime raiders swept across the eastern Mediterranean, leaving destruction in their wake and contributing to the collapse of several major civilizations. Known to us only through Egyptian hieroglyphic records as the Sea Peoples, these enigmatic warriors remain one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The Egyptian records describe them as coming from the islands and coastlands of the Northern Sea, but their exact origins remain unknown. Pharaoh Merneptah first recorded their attacks around 1208 BCE, describing fierce battles where Egyptian forces barely managed to repel the invaders. Later, Rameses III documented an even larger invasion around 1175 BCE, depicting massive naval battles in temple reliefs at Medinet Habu. What makes the Sea Peoples particularly mysterious is their apparent coordination across vast distances and their devastating effectiveness against established powers. They're credited with destroying the Hittite Empire, devastating coastal cities throughout the Levant, and contributing to the collapse of Mycenaean Greece. Their raids weren't random piracy, but organized military campaigns that targeted the most important centers of Bronze Age civilization. The Egyptian records provide tantalizing details about their composition. The confederation included groups with names like the Peleset, Tjeka, Shekelesh, Denyen, and Weshesh. Some scholars have attempted to connect these names to later known peoples, the Peleset possibly becoming the Philistines, the Shekelesh perhaps related to Sicily. However, these connections remain speculative and hotly debated. Archaeological evidence supports the Egyptian accounts of widespread destruction. Layer upon layer of ash and burned debris from this period has been found at sites across the eastern Mediterranean. The scale of destruction was enormous. Entire cities were abandoned, never to be reoccupied. Writing systems disappeared, trade networks collapsed, and technological knowledge was lost. The military technology of the Sea Peoples appears to have been superior to their Bronze Age opponents. Egyptian reliefs show them using iron weapons. When most of the world still relied on bronze, their ships were advanced for the time, capable of carrying large numbers of warriors across vast distances. They employed new military tactics that proved devastatingly effective against traditional Bronze Age armies. Some researchers proposed that the Sea Peoples weren't invaders, but refugees, populations displaced by climate change, famine, or political upheaval in their homelands. The late Bronze Age experienced significant climate disruption, with cooling temperatures and reduced rainfall affecting agriculture across the Mediterranean. Displaced populations might have been forced to seek new homes through military conquest. Modern DNA analysis of ancient remains from the period has provided some intriguing clues. Skeletal remains from sites associated with Sea Peoples activity show genetic markers suggesting origins in various parts of Europe and Anatolia. This supports the theory of a confederation rather than a single ethnic group, but doesn't definitively solve the mystery of their ultimate origins. The fate of the Sea Peoples after their raids is as mysterious as their origins. Some apparently settled in the regions they conquered, possibly forming the basis for later cultures, like the Philistines. Others seem to have simply vanished from the historical record. Whether they returned to unknown homelands, were absorbed into existing populations, or met some other fate remains an open question. Deep within Tibetan Buddhist tradition lies the legend of Shambhala, a mystical kingdom hidden somewhere in the mountains of Central Asia. More than a mere geographical location, Shambhala represents a spiritual realm where ancient wisdom is preserved and from which future enlightenment will emerge to transform the world. The earliest references to Shambhala appear in the Kalachakra Tantra, a complex Buddhist text dating to the 10th century CE. According to these teachings, Shambhala is ruled by a line of 32 kings who preserve the pure Buddhist doctrine, while the rest of the world falls into spiritual darkness. The kingdom is described as being surrounded by high mountains and accessible only to those who have achieved sufficient spiritual development. Tibetan texts provide remarkably detailed descriptions of Shambhala's geography and culture. The kingdom is said to be shaped like a lotus flower, with the capital city of Kalapa at its center. 8 petal-shaped regions surround the capital, each containing millions of villages. The entire realm is protected by a ring of snow-capped mountains that render it invisible to the outside world. The prophecies associated with Shambhala are particularly intriguing. Buddhist tradition teaches that when the world becomes dominated by materialistic ideology and spiritual practice declines, the final king of Shambhala will emerge with a great army to defeat the forces of darkness and establish a golden age of enlightenment. This battle is prophesied to occur in the distant future, after which Shambhala will become visible to all humanity. Throughout history, numerous expeditions have searched for Shambhala in the physical world. The 19th and early 20th centuries saw particular interest from Western explorers and occultists. The mysterious Madame Helena Blavatsky claimed to have received teachings from masters residing in Shambhala. Nicholas Roerich, the Russian painter and explorer, led expeditions through Central Asia, partly motivated by his belief in Shambhala's physical existence. Perhaps most notoriously, Nazi expeditions to Tibet in the 1930s and 1940s were partly motivated by Heinrich Himmler's obsession with finding Shambhala and other mystical locations. The Ahnenerbe, the Nazi Party's occult research division, sent multiple expeditions to Tibet seeking ancient wisdom and supernatural allies. These expeditions found no trace of a hidden kingdom, but contributed to the mythology surrounding Shambhala in popular culture. Modern Buddhist teachers generally interpret Shambhala as a spiritual rather than physical realm. The Dalai Lama has stated that while Shambhala may have a physical location, it exists primarily as a state of consciousness, accessible through meditation and spiritual practice. This interpretation aligns with the tantric understanding of sacred geography as both literal and symbolic. Satellite imagery and modern mapping have surveyed most of the regions traditionally associated with Shambhala: the Himalayan ranges, the Altai Mountains, and the vast steppes of Central Asia. No hidden valley or concealed kingdom has been discovered, though the remoteness and inaccessibility of many mountain regions leave room for speculation. The legend of Shambhala shares remarkable similarities with hidden kingdom traditions from other cultures. The Celtic otherworld, the Islamic tradition of the hidden city of Jabulka, and various Western legends of secret realms all describe mystical locations where ancient wisdom is preserved. This universality suggests either common human psychological archetypes or possible historical bases for these legends. According to the ancient Hindu epic, the Mahabharata, the god Krishna ruled from a magnificent city called Dwarka, located on the western coast of India. The text describes Dwarka as a marvel of ancient engineering, with elaborate palaces, broad streets, and sophisticated water management systems. When Krishna departed the earthly realm, the ocean swallowed the city, consigning it to legend until marine archaeology began revealing intriguing underwater structures off the Gujarat coast. The Mahabharata provides detailed descriptions of Dwarka's glory. The city was said to be built on 900 million square yojanas of land reclaimed from the sea, with crystal clear water flowing through golden pipes. 600,000 palaces housed the city's inhabitants, while elaborate gardens and parks provided beauty and recreation. The city's defences were so sophisticated that it was considered impregnable. Modern underwater archaeological investigations began in the 1980s when marine archaeologist Dr. S.R. Rao discovered stone structures submerged off the coast of modern Dwarka in Gujarat. Subsequent expeditions have revealed extensive underwater ruins, including stone anchors, pottery fragments, seals, and what appear to be the foundations of ancient structures. The most intriguing discoveries include massive stone blocks arranged in geometric patterns on the sea floor. Some of these blocks show evidence of careful shaping and fitting, suggesting deliberate construction rather than natural formation. Pottery sherds found at the site have been dated to approximately 1500 BCE, which roughly corresponds to the traditional dating of the Mahabharata period. Carbon dating of material found at the underwater sites has yielded dates ranging from 3000 to 1500 BCE, suggesting a long period of habitation. This timeframe aligns with archaeological evidence of significant urban development along India's western coast during the Harappan period. However, definitively linking these underwater remains to the legendary Dwarka described in Hindu texts remains challenging. The geological context supports the possibility of a submerged ancient city. Sea levels along the Gujarat coast have risen significantly since the last ice age, and the region has experienced numerous earthquakes throughout history. The combination of rising seas and seismic activity could easily have submerged coastal settlements from antiquity. Sonar mapping has revealed additional structures extending over a considerable area of the seafloor. The layout suggests organised urban planning, with what appear to be streets and building foundations arranged in regular patterns. However, the extreme age of any potential structures and the effects of thousands of years of marine erosion make definitive interpretation difficult. The cultural significance of these discoveries extends far beyond archaeology. For millions of Hindus, Krishna is not merely a mythological figure, but a historical person whose life and deeds are recorded in sacred texts. Evidence of a submerged city, matching descriptions of Dwarka, would provide archaeological support for traditions that many consider historically accurate. Throughout history, explorers have been drawn to legends of cities built from precious metals or possessing mystical properties. These quests have shaped exploration, fueled conquest, and created some of history's most enduring mysteries. The legend of El Dorado began not as a place, but as a person, specifically the ceremony of the Muisca people who inhabited the region around Lake Guatavita in modern-day Colombia. El Dorado, meaning the Golden One, referred to their chief who, during religious ceremonies, would cover himself in gold dust and dive into the sacred lake, while his subjects threw precious offerings into the waters. The Muisca Confederation had developed sophisticated gold working techniques, creating intricate figurines, jewelry, and ceremonial objects that amazed Spanish conquistadors when they first encountered them in the 1530s. The ritual at Lake Guatavita was the centerpiece of their religious practices, conducted to appease the goddess, who they believed dwelt in the lake's depths. Spanish chroniclers documented these ceremonies in detail. The chief would be covered in resin and then coated with gold dust until he appeared to be made of solid gold. Accompanied by 4 subject chiefs, also adorned with gold and precious stones, he would journey to the center of the lake on a ceremonial raft. There, he would dive into the waters, while his companions threw gold and emeralds into the lake as offerings. The transformation of El Dorado from a person to a place occurred as Spanish conquistadors became obsessed with finding the source of the Muisca gold. Rumors spread of a city built entirely of gold, hidden somewhere in the unexplored regions of South America. This legendary city became the focus of increasingly desperate expeditions that claimed thousands of lives and consumed vast fortunes. Sir Walter Raleigh led 2 expeditions in search of El Dorado, convinced it lay somewhere in the Guyana highlands. His accounts describe a city of incredible wealth ruled by a king who lived in a palace roofed with gold. Raleigh's failure to find the city contributed to his eventual execution, but his writings kept the legend alive for future generations of treasure hunters. Modern archaeological investigations have revealed the historical reality behind the legend. In 1965, treasure hunters, using modern equipment, managed to partially drain Lake Guatavita, recovering hundreds of gold and emerald artifacts from its bottom. These discoveries confirmed the Spanish accounts of the lake's sacred significance and the practice of throwing precious objects into its waters. The impact of the El Dorado legend on South American history cannot be overstated. The Spanish obsession with finding golden cities drove exploration and conquest throughout the continent. Indigenous populations were enslaved, tortured, and killed in pursuit of information about mythical treasures. Entire ecosystems were destroyed as conquistadors pushed deeper into unexplored territories. Archaeological evidence suggests that several South American cultures did indeed create cities with extensive use of gold decoration. The Inca Empire's capital at Cusco reportedly contained buildings with walls covered in gold plates. The Chibcha people of Colombia created elaborate goldwork that may have inspired some of the more fantastical descriptions of golden cities. Environmental destruction continues today as modern treasure hunters use industrial equipment to search for El Dorado and similar legendary treasures. The use of mercury in gold mining has contaminated vast areas of rainforest, while illegal mining operations destroy archaeological sites before they can be properly studied. Ancient Greek literature speaks of Hyperborea, a mystical land beyond the north wind, where the sun never set and the inhabitants lived in perfect happiness for 1,000 years. This legendary realm, described by poets and historians from Homer to Herodotus, represents one of the earliest recorded utopian societies and continues to intrigue researchers interested in the origins of Arctic exploration myths. The name Hyperborea literally means beyond Boreas, referring to the Greek god of the north wind. Greek texts describe it as a land of eternal spring, where neither disease nor old age existed. The Hyperboreans were said to be blessed by Apollo, who spent his winter months among them, and they sent sacred offerings to his shrine at Delos via a chain of intermediary peoples. Pindar, the ancient Greek lyric poet, described Hyperborea as a place where neither disease nor hateful old age is mixed in their sacred blood. Far from labour and battle they live. The inhabitants were said to spend their time in festivals, music, and dancing, living lives of perfect harmony with nature and the gods. Herodotus, often called the father of history, wrote about Hyperborean maidens who came to Delos bearing sacred offerings but never returned home. He claimed that their graves could still be seen on the island, honoured by later generations of Greeks who remembered their sacrifice. This detail suggests that Greek contact with northern peoples may have provided some historical basis for the Hyperborean legends. The location of Hyperborea has been debated since antiquity. Some ancient geographers placed it in what is now Siberia, while others suggested the British Isles or Scandinavia. The description of a land where the sun never sets clearly refers to the Arctic phenomenon of the midnight sun, suggesting the Greeks had some knowledge of far northern regions. Modern researchers have attempted to connect Hyperborean legends to actual Arctic cultures. The advanced astronomical knowledge attributed to the Hyperboreans might reflect contact with Inuit or other Arctic peoples who developed sophisticated understanding of celestial movements. The emphasis on musical and artistic culture in Hyperborean myths could derive from encounters with Nordic peoples known for their rich oral traditions. Some scholars suggest that Hyperborean legends preserve memories of the Arctic during warmer climatic periods. During the medieval warm period and earlier warm phases, the Arctic regions were more hospitable than during the Little Ice Age that followed. Norse settlements in Greenland during this period created thriving communities that might have seemed paradisiacal to visitors from more temperate regions. The Nazi appropriation of Hyperborean mythology in the 20th century demonstrates how ancient legends can be distorted for political purposes. Nazi ideologists claimed that Hyperborea was the original homeland of the Aryan race, sending expeditions to Tibet and other locations in search of evidence for their racial theories. This misuse of classical sources highlights the importance of critical analysis when examining ancient geographical claims. As we examine these vanished civilizations, certain patterns emerge that suggest common elements in how advanced societies develop and disappear. Understanding these patterns may provide insights into the vulnerabilities of our own civilization and the factors that determine long-term cultural survival. The most striking commonality is the apparent suddenness of many civilizational collapses. Whether we're examining the Bronze Age collapse, the disappearance of the Sea Peoples, or the abandonment of Amazonian cities, these societies often seem to have vanished within a few generations rather than declining gradually over centuries. This pattern suggests that complex civilizations may be more fragile than they appear at their peak. Perhaps most intriguingly, many lost civilizations seem to have possessed knowledge or capabilities that challenge our assumptions about technological development. The precision of ancient stonework, the astronomical accuracy of ancient calendars, and the engineering sophistication of ancient cities suggest that human knowledge may not always progress in a linear fashion. The lost civilizations we've explored demonstrate humanity's remarkable capacity for creating sophisticated societies that can disappear almost without trace. But perhaps even more mysterious than these vanished cultures are the physical monuments they left behind, structures so precise and massive that they continue to challenge our understanding of ancient technological capabilities. Scattered across the globe stand monuments that seem to mock the limitations we assume existed in ancient times. These structures, built with precision that rivals modern engineering, continue to puzzle experts who struggle to explain how they were created with supposedly primitive tools. On England's Salisbury Plain stands perhaps the world's most famous prehistoric monument, a circle of massive stones that has puzzled visitors for over 4,000 years. Stonehenge represents not a single construction project, but multiple phases of building spanning nearly 15 centuries, each adding layers of complexity to an already enigmatic structure. The monument's construction began around 3100 BCE with a simple circular earthwork enclosure. Over successive centuries, builders added wooden posts, cremation burials, and eventually the massive sarsen stones that dominate the site today. The final phase, completed around 1600 BCE, created the iconic trilithons, pairs of vertical stones topped by horizontal lintels that frame the monument's interior. What makes Stonehenge truly mysterious is the precision of its construction and the enormous logistical challenge it represents. The largest sarsen stones weigh up to 50 tons and were quarried from Marlborough Downs over 20 miles away. The smaller blue stones, weighing up to 4 tons each, originated in the Preseli Hills of Wales, a staggering 150 miles from Stonehenge. Transporting these massive stones across the landscape of Neolithic Britain would have required unprecedented organisation and engineering skill. Recent experiments suggest the sarsens could have been moved using wooden rollers, ropes, and hundreds of people working in coordination. The blue stones might have been transported by sea around the Welsh coast, then up rivers and overland to Salisbury Plain. The precision of Stonehenge's astronomical alignments continues to amaze researchers. The monument's axis aligns perfectly with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset. More sophisticated analysis has revealed alignments with lunar cycles, including the complex 18.6-year pattern of lunar standstills. This astronomical knowledge required centuries of careful observation and record-keeping. Archaeological evidence suggests Stonehenge served multiple functions throughout its long history. Cremated remains of at least 150 individuals have been found at the site, indicating its role as a burial ground for elite members of society. The presence of healing springs and evidence of pilgrimage from across Europe suggest it may have been perceived as a place of miraculous cures. The acoustic properties of Stonehenge add another layer of mystery. Sound experiments have revealed that the stone circle creates unique acoustic effects, amplifying and focusing sound in ways that would have enhanced ritual activities. The specific arrangement of stones seems designed to create these sonic phenomena, suggesting the builders understood principles of acoustics that weren't formally recognized until modern times. Recent discoveries continue to reveal Stonehenge's complexity. Ground-penetrating radar has identified a vast landscape of buried monuments surrounding the famous stone circle. These hidden structures suggest Stonehenge was the centerpiece of a much larger sacred complex that stretched for miles across Salisbury Plain. Standing on the Giza Plateau outside Cairo, the Great Pyramid represents the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian engineering achievement. Built as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu around 2580 BCE, this massive structure held the record as the world's tallest building for over 3,800 years and remains one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The pyramid's statistics are staggering. Originally standing 481 feet tall, it was built from approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. The total weight exceeds 6 million tons, yet the structure was completed in roughly 20 years according to ancient records. This would have required setting one block in place every 2 to 3 minutes, working around the clock. The precision of the Great Pyramid's construction defies easy explanation. The base forms an almost perfect square, with sides varying by less than 2 inches across a length of 755 feet. The orientation aligns to cardinal directions with an accuracy of 3/60th of a degree, more precise than most modern buildings. The pyramid's slope angle of 51 degrees 52 minutes creates mathematical relationships that suggest sophisticated understanding of geometry and engineering. Internal chambers and passages reveal additional mysteries. The king's chamber contains a granite sarcophagus that's slightly wider than the chamber's entrance, suggesting it was placed during construction rather than moved in afterward. The chamber's dimensions correspond to mathematical ratios found throughout the pyramid, indicating a unified design philosophy based on precise geometric relationships. The Great Pyramid incorporates advanced engineering solutions that wouldn't be rediscovered for millennia. Internal stress-relieving chambers above the king's chamber prevent the massive weight above from crushing the burial chamber. The descending passage maintains a perfect slope that required surveying skills of extraordinary accuracy. Ventilation shafts, long thought to be symbolic, may have served practical purposes in maintaining air circulation. Recent discoveries using cosmic ray imaging have revealed potential hidden chambers within the pyramid. These voids, detected through muography, a technique that uses cosmic ray particles to image dense structures, suggest the pyramid may contain unexplored spaces that could revolutionize our understanding of its construction and purpose. The logistics of pyramid construction remain poorly understood despite decades of research. Traditional theories propose that massive ramps were built to move stones to higher levels, but no archaeological evidence of such ramps has been found. Alternative theories suggest internal ramp systems, lever-based lifting techniques, or methods that haven't occurred to modern engineers. Perhaps most mysteriously, the Great Pyramid demonstrates knowledge that seems to exceed what we'd expect from a Bronze Age civilization. The structure incorporates the mathematical constant pi, and the golden ratio suggests understanding of Earth's dimensions and aligns with stellar positions in ways that indicate sophisticated astronomical knowledge. On one of the most remote inhabited islands on Earth stand nearly 1,000 massive stone statues, known as moai. These monumental figures, carved by the Polynesian Rapa Nui people between 1250 and 1500 CE, represent one of humanity's most isolated and mysterious archaeological achievements. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui in the native language, sits 2,300 miles from the nearest populated land, making it one of the most isolated pieces of inhabited territory on the planet. When Polynesian settlers arrived sometime between 700 and 1200 CE, they found an island covered in palm forests and rich with natural resources. Over the following centuries, they developed a unique culture centered around the creation of massive stone monuments. The moai themselves are marvels of ancient engineering, ranging in height from 6 to 33 feet and weighing up to 80 tons. These statues were carved from volcanic tuff at the Rano Raraku quarry using only stone tools. The precision of their carving and the consistency of their design across centuries of production suggest a highly organized society with specialized craftsmen and sophisticated artistic traditions. Recent excavations have revealed that many moai are much larger than previously understood. What appeared to be just heads poking above ground are actually full figures buried to their necks in centuries of soil accumulation. These buried bodies display intricate carvings and symbols that provide new insights into Rapa Nui culture and religious beliefs. The transportation of moai from the quarry to their final positions across the island presents a logistical puzzle that has fascinated researchers for decades. Traditional theories propose that the statues were rolled on logs or moved using wooden sleds. However, recent experiments have demonstrated that the moai could have been walked upright using ropes and coordinated rocking motions, a technique that matches oral traditions describing the statues as walking to their destinations. The purpose and meaning of the moai remain subjects of ongoing research and debate. Most face inland, overlooking the communities rather than the sea, suggesting they were meant to watch over the living rather than guard against external threats. The statues appear to represent deified ancestors, serving as intermediaries between the living and the spirit world. Archaeological evidence reveals a complex society that supported moai construction for over 500 years. The island was divided among competing clans, each controlling different areas and resources. The construction of increasingly large moai may have been a form of competitive display, with clans attempting to demonstrate their power and status through monumental architecture. The decline of moai construction around 1500 CE coincides with environmental and social collapse on the island. Deforestation, soil depletion, and overpopulation led to ecological disaster and social conflict. The once thriving civilization that created the Moai fragmented into warring groups, and monument construction ceased entirely. Modern analysis of the Moai has revealed sophisticated understanding of engineering principles. The statue's proportions and weight distribution suggest their creators understood concepts of center of gravity and structural stability. The consistent quality of carving across centuries indicates standardized techniques and possibly formal training systems for sculptors. While Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid, and the Easter Island Moai represent famous examples of ancient engineering prowess, they pale in comparison to some lesser-known but even more technically challenging achievements. In the following examples, we'll explore structures that push the boundaries of what we believe possible for ancient civilizations, displaying precision and sophistication that continues to baffle modern engineers. These monuments showcase technical achievements that seem to transcend the technological limitations of their time, displaying precision and sophistication that challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. High in the Bolivian Altiplano, at an altitude of over 12,000 feet, lie the ruins of Pumapunku, a complex of precisely cut stone blocks that represent perhaps the most technically advanced stonework ever discovered from the ancient world. Dating to approximately 536 CE, these ruins challenge everything we think we know about pre-Columbian engineering capabilities. The precision of Pumapunku's stonework defies explanation using conventional understanding of ancient tools and techniques. Massive blocks of andesite and red sandstone are cut with tolerances that rival modern machining capabilities. Surfaces are flat to within fractions of millimeters, angles are precisely 90 degrees, and complex interlocking joints fit together with no gaps whatsoever. Some blocks at Pumapunku weigh over 130 tons, yet they've been transported from quarries several miles away and positioned with extraordinary precision. The largest red sandstone blocks came from a quarry 10 miles distant, requiring transportation across difficult terrain at high altitude. How a pre-Columbian civilization moved these massive stones without wheels, draft animals, or mechanical advantage systems remains unexplained. The complexity of some stone blocks suggests manufacturing techniques that shouldn't have been available to ancient Andean peoples. H-shaped blocks with precise internal channels, blocks with multiple perfectly aligned holes, and interlocking components that fit together like three-dimensional puzzles all indicate sophisticated planning and execution that challenges conventional archaeological timelines. Analysis of the stone surfaces reveals characteristics that some researchers argue could only be achieved through machine precision. Perfectly smooth surfaces with no tool marks, precise internal and external angles, and complex geometric shapes all suggest manufacturing capabilities beyond what we'd expect from cultures using bronze and stone tools. Recent computer modelling of Pumapunku's construction has revealed the mathematical sophistication required to create such precisely interlocking components. The three-dimensional complexity of the joints and the precision required to achieve proper fit would challenge modern engineers. Yet somehow these ancient builders achieved perfection using supposedly primitive methods. Discovered in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901, this corroded bronze artifact sat in museum storage for decades before researchers realized they had found the world's oldest known analog computer. Dating to approximately 100 BCE, the Antikythera mechanism represents a level of technological sophistication that wouldn't be seen again for over 1,000 years. The device consists of at least 37 meshing bronze gears housed in a wooden case about the size of a mantle clock. When operated by turning a hand crank, the mechanism could predict the positions of the sun, moon, and known planets with remarkable accuracy. It tracked the complex cycles of celestial bodies, predicted eclipses, and even accounted for the irregular orbit of the moon. X-ray analysis and CT scanning have revealed the mechanism's extraordinary complexity. The gear ratios, precisely match astronomical cycles known to ancient Greek astronomers, including the 19-year Metonic cycle and the 23-month Saros cycle used to predict eclipses. The device incorporated differential gears, mechanical components not seen again until medieval Islamic clockwork and not widely used until the Industrial Age. Inscriptions on the mechanism provide operating instructions and astronomical data in ancient Greek. These texts reveal that the device was intended for educational or demonstration purposes, suggesting that such sophisticated mechanical computers may have been more common in the ancient world than previously imagined. The precision of the mechanism's manufacturing rivals that of 18th century clockwork. Gear teeth are evenly spaced and precisely formed. Shafts are perfectly round and straight, and the overall construction shows evidence of sophisticated metalworking techniques. Creating such precise components would have required skills and tools that historians didn't believe existed in the ancient world. Recent reconstructions of the Antikythera mechanism have confirmed its functionality and revealed additional capabilities. The device could predict the timing of Olympic Games, track the positions of celestial bodies decades into the future, and demonstrate the complex mathematical relationships underlying ancient astronomical theory. The Great Sphinx of Giza presents one of archaeology's most contentious dating controversies. While mainstream Egyptology attributes its construction to Pharaoh Khafra around 2500 BCE, geological evidence suggests a much older origin that would revolutionize our understanding of ancient civilizations. Geologist Robert Schoch's analysis of weathering patterns on the Sphinx enclosure walls indicates water erosion rather than wind erosion. In the arid climate of Egypt's last 5,000 years, such extensive water erosion could only have occurred during periods of much higher rainfall. The last such period in Egypt occurred between 10,000 and 5000 BCE, suggesting the Sphinx predates dynastic Egyptian civilization by thousands of years. The Sphinx displays sophisticated understanding of both geology and astronomy. Its body was carved from existing limestone bedrock, utilizing natural rock formations while creating artificial features where needed. The monument's eastward orientation aligns with the rising sun at the spring equinox, demonstrating astronomical knowledge integrated into architectural planning. Recent seismic surveys have detected voids beneath the Sphinx, suggesting hidden chambers that might contain artifacts or inscriptions that could resolve the dating controversy. However, Egyptian authorities have been reluctant to authorize invasive exploration that might damage the monument. Overlooking the ancient Inca capital of Cusco stands Sacsayhuaman, a massive stone fortress that showcases Inca masonry skills at their absolute peak. The precision of its construction exceeds that of any other Inca site, featuring perfectly fitted megalithic blocks that create walls of extraordinary strength and beauty. The largest stones at Sacsayhuaman weigh over 200 tons and are fitted together with tolerances that wouldn't be achieved in European masonry for another 1,000 years. The blocks are cut in complex irregular shapes that interlock like three-dimensional puzzles, creating joints so tight that not even a knife blade can be inserted between them. Spanish chroniclers reported that the fortress's construction required 20,000 workers laboring for decades. However, they provided no details about how the massive stones were quarried, transported, and fitted with such extraordinary precision. The Inca used no iron tools, no wheels, and no draft animals, yet somehow achieved masonry that surpasses most modern construction. The fortress demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of seismic engineering. The irregular interlocking of stones creates flexibility that allows the walls to move during earthquakes without collapsing. This technique has proven so effective that Sacsayhuaman has survived numerous major earthquakes that damaged or destroyed colonial buildings in Cusco. In Ireland's Boyne Valley stands Newgrange, a Neolithic passage tomb that predates Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, while demonstrating sophisticated astronomical knowledge and engineering skills. Built around 3200 BCE, This monument represents one of the oldest engineered solar observatories in the world. The tomb's most remarkable feature is its winter solstice alignment. For just 17 minutes each year, at sunrise on the winter solstice, sunlight penetrates through a specially designed roof box and illuminates the burial chamber 60 feet inside the mound. This effect was deliberately engineered into the structure's design and has functioned perfectly for over 5,000 years. The construction of Newgrange required sophisticated architectural planning and engineering skills. The massive mound, containing over 200,000 tons of stone and earth, is held in place by a retaining wall of precisely fitted stones. The internal passage maintains perfect structural integrity despite the enormous weight pressing down from above. Recent discoveries suggest Newgrange was part of a larger astronomical complex that tracked multiple celestial cycles. The site's builders possessed detailed knowledge of solar and lunar movements that rivaled that of much later civilizations, challenging assumptions about Neolithic intellectual capabilities. In China's Zhejiang province, a series of artificial caves carved from solid sandstone presents an engineering mystery that has puzzled experts since their rediscovery in 1992. Known as the Longyu Caves, these underground chambers display precision and scale that seems impossible for any known ancient Chinese civilization. The caves consist of multiple chambers connected by tunnels, with precisely carved walls, ceilings, and support pillars. The uniformity of the carving marks and the mathematical precision of the chambers suggest systematic construction using techniques that remain unexplained. The total volume of stone removed exceeds 30,000 cubic meters, representing an enormous undertaking by any measure. What makes the Longyu Caves particularly mysterious is the complete absence of historical records describing their construction. No Chinese text mentions such a massive excavation project, despite the obvious resources and workforce that would have been required. The caves appear to have been forgotten by history until their modern rediscovery. The precision of the cave's construction suggests advanced planning and sophisticated tools. Walls are perfectly vertical, angles are precisely 90 degrees, and the carved decorative elements show consistent artistic style throughout the complex. The uniformity suggests a single construction campaign rather than gradual development over time. Archaeological dating of artifacts found in the caves suggests construction during the Han Dynasty period, 206 BCE, 220 CE. But the cave's sophisticated engineering seems to exceed the documented capabilities of that era. The mystery deepens when considering that such a massive project left no trace in historical records from a period when Chinese civilization kept meticulous written accounts. The architectural achievements we've explored demonstrate that ancient civilizations possessed capabilities that continue to challenge our understanding of technological development. But perhaps even more intriguing than these massive monuments are the smaller artifacts they left behind, objects that seem to embody knowledge and technologies that shouldn't have existed in their time periods. Throughout history, certain objects have been imbued with such spiritual significance that they transcend their material nature, becoming symbols of divine power and repositories of ancient mysteries. Perhaps no religious artifact has captured human imagination quite like the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest described in biblical texts as containing the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. According to Scripture, this golden box possessed such divine power that touching it meant instant death, and its presence could level city walls and strike down armies. The biblical description provides specific construction details that read like an engineering manual. The ark measured approximately 4 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, and 2.5 feet high, constructed from acacia wood and covered entirely in gold. 2 golden cherubim with outstretched wings topped the lid, known as the mercy seat, where God was said to dwell and communicate with Moses. Historical accounts describe the ark's extraordinary powers with consistent detail across multiple sources. When the Israelites crossed the Jordan River, the waters reportedly stopped flowing, as soon as the priests carrying the ark stepped into the water. During the siege of Jericho, the ark's presence allegedly caused the city walls to collapse after 7 days of ritual procession. The ark's disappearance from history adds to its mystery. After Solomon's temple was completed around 950 BCE, biblical accounts of the ark become increasingly sparse. The last definitive mention places it in the temple's Holy of Holies. But when the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem in 586 BCE, no mention is made of the ark's capture or destruction. Multiple theories attempt to explain the ark's fate. Ethiopian Orthodox tradition claims the ark was taken to Ethiopia by the Queen of Sheba and remains in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Axum. However, this claim cannot be verified, as the supposed ark is guarded by a single monk who alone may view it. Other theories suggest the ark was hidden before the Babylonian invasion, possibly in caves beneath Jerusalem or transported to safety by Jewish priests. Some researchers have proposed technological explanations for the ark's described powers. The gold-covered wood construction could have created a large electrical capacitor capable of storing significant charge. In the dry desert climate, such a device might accumulate enough static electricity to deliver dangerous or fatal shocks to anyone who touched it. The electromagnetic properties of the ark's construction materials have led to speculation about more advanced functions. Some theorists suggest the device could have been a communication system, a weapon, or even a power source based on principles not understood by ancient peoples. While these ideas remain highly speculative, they attempt to provide rational explanations for the consistently reported supernatural phenomena. Archaeological searches for the ark continue today, focused primarily on sites in and around Jerusalem. Ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive techniques have been used to search beneath the Temple Mount, but political and religious sensitivities severely limit such investigations. Several claims of discovery have been made over the years, but none have provided convincing evidence. The quest for the Holy Grail has consumed treasure hunters, scholars, and mystics for nearly 2 millennia, making it perhaps history's most sought-after religious artifact. Described in medieval legend as the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper and later to catch his blood during crucifixion, the Grail supposedly possesses miraculous healing powers and grants eternal life to those who drink from it. The earliest references to the Grail appear in 12th century literature, particularly in Chrétien de Troyes' unfinished romance, Percival, the Story of the Grail. These medieval texts describe a mystical vessel that could feed multitudes, heal any wound, and grant spiritual enlightenment to worthy seekers. The Grail became central to Arthurian legend, with Knights of the Round Table undertaking quests to find this ultimate sacred object. Historical analysis suggests the Grail legend may have multiple sources. Some scholars trace its origins to pre-Christian Celtic mythology, where magical cauldrons of plenty appear in Welsh and Irish folklore. Others see connections to early Christian apocryphal texts that describe Joseph of Arimathea collecting Christ's blood and later travelling to Britain, where he supposedly established the first Christian church. The search for a physical Grail has led to numerous claimed discoveries, each reflecting the cultural and religious beliefs of its era. The Santo Cáliz in Valencia Cathedral, a 1st century agate cup mounted in medieval gold, has been venerated as the true Grail since the 15th century. The Catholic Church has never officially endorsed this or any other Grail claim, maintaining that the cup's spiritual significance transcends any physical object. Archaeological investigations have attempted to trace possible historical Grails to their sources. The Antioch chalice, discovered in 1910 and initially claimed as the true Grail, was later dated to the 6th century CE, far too late to be authentic. Similar dating problems affect most claimed Grails, as the materials and construction techniques typically post-date the purported time of Christ. The Nanteos cup, a wooden bowl long claimed by Welsh tradition to be the true Grail, underwent scientific analysis that revealed medieval construction. Despite its relatively recent origin, The cup developed a reputation for miraculous healing, with pilgrims travelling from across Europe to drink from it until the practice was discontinued in the 20th century. Some researchers argue that the true Grail may not be a cup at all. Alternative interpretations suggest the Grail represents the bloodline of Christ, preserved through his supposed descendants. This theory, popularized in modern fiction, proposes that the San Graal, Holy Grail, was misunderstood from sang real, royal blood, referring to a genetic rather than material legacy. The Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland has become a focal point for modern Grail seekers. Its elaborate stone carvings interpreted as encoded messages pointing to the Grail's location. While such theories remain highly speculative, the chapel's mysterious symbols and supposed connections to the Knights Templar continue to attract researchers and treasure hunters. Recent archaeological discoveries have provided new insights into first-century drinking vessels that might have inspired Grail legends. Excavations in Jerusalem have uncovered stone cups and bowls from the time of Christ, providing examples of what the actual Last Supper cup might have looked like. Far simpler than the elaborate golden chalices typically associated with Grail imagery. Few artifacts have generated as much controversy and fascination as the crystal skulls, life-sized human skulls carved from clear or coloured quartz crystal. These enigmatic objects have been claimed as ancient Mesoamerican artifacts possessing supernatural powers, while scientific analysis has revealed most to be modern creations that challenge our understanding of ancient technological capabilities. The most famous crystal skull belonged to British adventurer F.A. Mitchell Hedges, who claimed his adopted daughter Anna discovered it in a Mayan ruin in Belize in 1927. This skull, carved from a single piece of clear quartz, displays remarkable anatomical accuracy and sophisticated craftsmanship. However, investigations into its provenance have revealed significant problems with Mitchell Hedges' account. Scientific examination of crystal skulls using electron microscopy has revealed tool marks consistent with modern rotary tools rather than ancient hand-carving techniques. The precision of the carving and the perfect optical clarity of the quartz suggest manufacturing capabilities that exceeded those available to pre-Columbian civilizations. Most authenticated crystal skulls show evidence of 19th or 20th century construction. However, the mystery deepens when considering the technical challenges of carving quartz crystal even with modern tools. Quartz rates 7 on the Mohs hardness scale, making it extremely difficult to carve and polish. Creating the intricate internal structures and hollow chambers found in some skulls would challenge contemporary artisans, raising questions about how they were manufactured, even if they are modern creations. Laboratory analysis has revealed that several famous crystal skulls were carved from Brazilian quartz, despite claims of Mesoamerican origin. The specific type of quartz and its geological characteristics can be traced to particular mining locations, providing definitive evidence against claims of ancient American manufacture. Legend attributes supernatural properties to authentic crystal skulls, including the ability to store information, project images, and channel spiritual energy. New Age believers claim that 13 ancient crystal skulls exist, and when brought together, they will reveal profound truths about human origins and destiny. While no scientific evidence supports these claims, the legends persist and drive continued interest in crystal skull artifacts. The skull's association with Mayan and Aztec cultures stems from the importance of skull imagery in Mesoamerican art and religion. However, no crystal skulls have been found in controlled archaeological excavations of pre-Columbian sites. The absence of crystal skulls from legitimate archaeological contexts strongly suggests they are not authentic ancient artifacts. Modern crystal skull creation has become a recognized art form, with contemporary artisans producing increasingly sophisticated examples. Some of these modern skulls rival the famous historical examples in terms of craftsmanship and artistic achievement, demonstrating that the technology for creating such objects has been available for over a century. The persistence of crystal skull legends, despite scientific debunking, illustrates the power of mystery and the human desire to connect with ancient wisdom. Even knowing that most crystal skulls are modern creations doesn't diminish their aesthetic appeal or their ability to inspire wonder about the capabilities of both ancient and contemporary craftspeople. Among the most intriguing archaeological discoveries are objects that seem to incorporate technologies unknown to their supposed time periods, challenging linear assumptions about technological development. In 1936, while working on the construction of a new railway near Baghdad, workers uncovered a collection of ancient artifacts that would spark decades of debate about the technological capabilities of ancient Mesopotamian civilizations. Among these discoveries was a clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod that some researchers believe represents evidence of ancient electrical knowledge. The artifact, dating to approximately 250 BCE during the Parthian period, consists of a clay jar about 6 inches tall containing a copper cylinder that surrounds an iron rod. The cylinder appears to have been corroded by an acidic substance, and traces of bitumen, asphalt, seal the top of the jar. When reconstructed with an electrolytic solution like vinegar or citric acid, the device can generate approximately 1.1 volts of electricity. German archaeologist Wilhelm König first proposed that these objects functioned as galvanic cells, primitive batteries capable of generating electrical current. His theory gained support when electrical engineer Willard Gray built working replicas that successfully produced measurable voltage. However, the purpose of such ancient batteries remains completely speculative. Several theories attempt to explain how ancient peoples might have used electrical current. The most popular suggestion involves electroplating, using electrical current to deposit thin layers of precious metals onto base metal objects. This would explain the remarkably thin gold and silver plating found on some ancient artifacts, achieved with precision that seemed impossible using known ancient techniques. However, mainstream archaeology remains skeptical of the battery interpretation. Critics point out that no ancient texts describe electrical phenomena. No wire or electrical components have been found associated with these jars, and no objects showing clear evidence of electroplating have been definitively identified from the same period and region. Alternative explanations for the Baghdad battery focus on more conventional uses. The jars might have been used to store sacred scrolls, with the inner components serving as preservation devices. The acidic corrosion could result from the natural breakdown of organic materials rather than intentional electrolytic action. Experimental archaeology has attempted to test various theories about the artifact's function. When multiple Baghdad battery replicas are connected in series, they can generate enough current to produce noticeable electrical effects. However, no archaeological evidence suggests ancient peoples understood how to create electrical circuits or harness electrical power for practical applications. The broader implications of the Baghdad battery extend beyond the specific artifact to questions about ancient technological knowledge. If ancient peoples did understand electrical principles, it would suggest that human technological development has been far less linear than commonly assumed, with knowledge being gained and lost repeatedly throughout history. Throughout the archaeological record appear objects that seem impossibly out of place in their temporal contexts. Artifacts that display technological sophistication or artistic achievement that supposedly didn't exist when they were created. These OOPArts, out-of-place artifacts, challenge conventional understanding of technological development and continue to generate controversy among researchers. The London hammer, discovered embedded in Cretaceous limestone in Texas, appears to be a modern steel hammerhead fossilized in rock supposedly 100 million years old. While this seems impossible, geological processes can sometimes create misleading contexts through secondary mineralization and rock formation. The hammer likely fell into a limestone solution that hardened around it, creating the appearance of ancient fossilization. The Antikythera mechanism, discussed earlier, represents a legitimate oopart, an artifact whose sophistication genuinely exceeded what historians expected from its time period. Its existence forced a re-evaluation of ancient Greek technological capabilities and demonstrated that complex mechanical devices existed in antiquity. Metallic spheres discovered in South African mines and attributed to being 3 billion years old have been proposed as evidence of ancient technology or extraterrestrial artifacts. However, geological analysis has revealed these spheres are pyrophyllite concretions, natural formations created by geological processes that can produce remarkably regular shapes resembling artificial construction. The Kozo artifact, a supposed spark plug, found inside a geode claimed to be 500,000 years old, generated significant controversy when discovered in 1961. However, detailed analysis revealed it to be a 1920s champion spark plug that had become encrusted with mineral deposits, creating the illusion of great age. Ancient gold jewelry displaying sophisticated metallurgical techniques continues to surprise archaeologists. Pre-Columbian artifacts from South America show evidence of platinum working, electrochemical processes, and alloy creation that required technological knowledge supposedly unknown to ancient peoples. While these artifacts are genuine, they force reconsideration of ancient technological capabilities rather than suggesting anachronistic origins. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, dating to approximately 400 CE, displays remarkable corrosion resistance that puzzled metallurgists for decades. Standing over 23 feet tall and weighing 6 tons, the pillar shows virtually no rust despite 1,600 years of exposure to Delhi's climate. Recent analysis has revealed that ancient Indian metallurgists created a unique iron composition that forms a protective oxide layer, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of materials science. Stone spheres found worldwide, from Costa Rica to Scotland to New Zealand, display precision that challenges understanding of ancient stoneworking capabilities. While most have conventional explanations, some show tolerances that approach modern manufacturing standards. These artifacts demonstrate that ancient peoples possessed stoneworking skills that exceeded previous estimates of their capabilities. The key to understanding ooparts lies in distinguishing between genuinely anomalous artifacts and those that appear anomalous due to misunderstanding, miscontextualization, or wishful thinking. Legitimate ooparts like the Antikythera mechanism expand our understanding of ancient capabilities, while false ooparts often result from natural processes that create artificial-looking formations. Among the most puzzling artifacts from the Roman Empire are the bronze dodecahedra, hollow 12-sided objects with circular holes of varying sizes on each face. Over 100 of these enigmatic artifacts have been discovered across Roman territories, primarily in Gaul and Germania, yet their purpose remains completely unknown despite centuries of speculation. The dodecahedra date from the 2nd to 4th centuries CE and display remarkable consistency in design despite being found across thousands of miles of Roman territory. Each is roughly the size of a baseball, constructed from bronze, and features 12 pentagonal faces with circular holes. Small knobs protrude from each vertex, and the craftsmanship suggests they were valuable objects rather than simple tools. What makes Roman dodecahedra particularly mysterious is their complete absence from Roman literature. Despite the Romans' meticulous record-keeping and their tendency to document both practical and ceremonial objects, no text mentions these artifacts or describes their function. This literary silence is unprecedented for objects that were clearly important enough to be manufactured and distributed across the empire. The geographic distribution of dodecahedra discoveries provides intriguing clues about their use. Most have been found in regions that were Celtic before Roman conquest, suggesting they may have served specific cultural or religious functions relevant to these populations. However, some discoveries in purely Roman contexts complicate this interpretation. Proposed functions for the dodecahedra range from practical to mystical. Some researchers suggest they served as surveying instruments, using the holes to measure distances or angles. Others propose they were used in religious ceremonies, possibly as incense burners or ritual objects. The consistent hole sizes might have enabled their use as measuring devices for determining coin weights or other standardized measurements. Astronomical theories propose that dodecahedra functioned as primitive astronomical instruments, with the holes used to observe celestial bodies or calculate seasonal changes. The pentagonal geometry of the faces corresponds to mathematical ratios found in astronomical calculations, supporting this interpretation. Military applications have also been suggested, with some researchers proposing that dodecahedra served as range-finding devices for Roman artillery. The varying hole sizes could have been used to determine distances to targets by measuring how objects appeared through different apertures. However, no definitive evidence supports this military interpretation. The craftsmanship required to create dodecahedra indicates they were not mass-produced items, but individually crafted objects of some importance. The precision of the geometric construction and the quality of the bronze work suggests skilled artisans and significant investment in their creation. Recent experimental archaeology has attempted to test various theories about dodecahedral function. Reconstructions have been used to explore astronomical observation, measurement, and religious ceremony possibilities. While some experiments have shown potential functionality for proposed uses, none provide definitive evidence for any specific purpose. Perhaps the most tantalizing mysteries are the texts and symbols that humanity created but can no longer understand, windows into ancient minds that remain stubbornly opaque despite centuries of scholarly effort. In the depths of Yale University's Beinecke Library rests one of history's most mysterious books, the Voynich manuscript, a 15th century codex written in an unknown script that has defied every attempt at decipherment. Named after book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, who acquired it in 1912, this 240-page manuscript presents an enigma that has puzzled cryptographers, linguists, and computer scientists for over a century. The manuscript's content appears to be organized into distinct sections, each focusing on different subjects suggested by the accompanying illustrations. The botanical section contains detailed drawings of plants, most of which cannot be identified with known species. The astronomical section features circular diagrams with zodiacal symbols and star charts. The biological section shows strange pipe-like networks connected to nude female figures in what appear to be bathing scenes. The text itself consists of approximately 170,000 characters, using an alphabet of 25 unique symbols. Statistical analysis reveals patterns consistent with natural language. Certain characters appear more frequently at the beginning or end of words, and the overall structure suggests meaningful content rather than random gibberish. However, no correlation with any known language has been established. Radiocarbon dating of the vellum places the manuscript's creation between 1404 and 1438 CE, while the ink appears consistent with materials available during that period. This eliminates theories that the manuscript is a modern hoax, though it doesn't resolve questions about its content or origin. Cryptographic analysis has revealed intriguing statistical properties. The text shows patterns similar to natural languages, including predictable letter frequencies and word length distributions. However, it also displays unusual characteristics, such as extremely low entropy, repetitiveness, that would be rare in normal text. These properties have led some researchers to suggest the manuscript might be an artificial language or elaborate cipher. Computer analysis using modern decryption techniques has failed to crack the Voynich code. Algorithms capable of breaking complex historical ciphers have found no patterns that would indicate conventional encryption methods. This has led to speculation that the manuscript uses an unknown cipher system or represents an entirely artificial language. Recent theories propose that the Voynich manuscript might be written in a lost dialect or represent an attempt to create a universal philosophical language. The Renaissance period saw numerous attempts to develop artificial languages that could express complex ideas more precisely than existing tongues. The manuscript might represent one such experiment that was never completed or whose key was lost. Some researchers argue that the manuscript's apparent meaninglessness might be intentional, a sophisticated work designed to appear meaningful while actually containing no decipherable content. This interpretation suggests the manuscript was created as an elaborate fraud, perhaps to fool Renaissance collectors interested in ancient or exotic texts. Discovered in the Minoan Palace complex of Phaistos on Crete in 1908, the Phaistos disc represents one of archaeology's most compact yet impenetrable mysteries. This fired clay disc, dating to approximately 1700 BCE, contains 241 symbols arranged in a spiral pattern that has resisted all attempts at decipherment despite over a century of scholarly effort. The disc is unique in several important ways. Its symbols were created using stamps rather than being hand-drawn, making it one of the earliest examples of movable type printing, a technology not seen elsewhere until the invention of printing in China over 2,000 years later. The 45 distinct symbols include representations of people, animals, plants, and geometric shapes, but their meaning remains completely unknown. The spiral arrangement of symbols, reading from outside to center, divides the text into 61 groups separated by vertical lines. This organization suggests meaningful structure, possibly representing words or concepts. However, no pattern has been identified that would provide clues to the underlying language or meaning. Attempts to connect the Phaistos symbols to other ancient scripts have proven unsuccessful. The symbols show no clear relationship to Linear A, the undeciphered Minoan script, or to any other known writing system from the ancient Mediterranean. This isolation makes the disc even more mysterious, as most ancient scripts show evolutionary connections to earlier or related systems. The disc's authenticity was questioned for decades, with some scholars arguing it was a modern forgery. However, archaeological context, thermoluminescence dating, and analysis of the clay composition have confirmed its ancient origin. The disc was definitely created during the Minoan period and found in a legitimate archaeological context. Recent computational analysis has applied modern statistical techniques to search for patterns in the Phaistos symbols. These studies have identified recurring symbol combinations and positional preferences that suggest meaningful content. However, the text is too short to provide sufficient data for statistical decipherment methods that have succeeded with other ancient scripts. The Phaistos disc's brevity compounds the decipherment challenge. With only 241 symbols, there isn't enough text to establish reliable patterns or test hypotheses about the underlying language. Successful decipherments of ancient scripts typically require much larger samples of text to identify consistent relationships between symbols and meanings. Various theories propose that the disc might be a prayer, a hymn, a calendar, or even a board game. The symbol's pictographic nature supports interpretations related to religious or ceremonial functions, while the disc's portable size suggests it might have been designed for travel or repeated use. The mystery of the Phaistos disc illustrates the challenges facing archaeologists and linguists when dealing with unique artifacts. Without related texts or cultural context, even the most sophisticated analytical techniques may prove insufficient to unlock ancient secrets. The disc remains a testament to the complexity of human communication and the fragility of knowledge transmission across millennia. As we've journeyed through these ancient mysteries, from impossible geometries carved in desert floors to technologies that seem to transcend their times, we begin to see patterns that suggest our understanding of human history may be far more incomplete than we realize. As our exploration of these unsolved ancient mysteries draws to a close, we find ourselves standing at the threshold between what we know and what we can only wonder about. We've travelled from the wind-swept plains of Nazca, where impossible lines stretch toward the horizon, to the depths of the ocean, where lost cities may still keep their secrets. We've examined artifacts that challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities and explored civilizations that vanish so completely they exist now only in fragments and whispers. These mysteries share common threads that weave through human history like golden filaments in a vast tapestry. Advanced knowledge appears and disappears. Sophisticated civilizations rise to great heights only to vanish completely, leaving behind only questions carved in stone. Technologies emerge that seem impossible for their time, then are forgotten so thoroughly that we rediscover them millennia later and marvel at ancient capabilities we never suspected. But here's the most profound question that emerges from our exploration tonight. If our ancestors were capable of achievements that still baffle us today, what does that suggest about the potential that lies dormant within human consciousness? What capabilities might we possess that we haven't yet recognized? What knowledge might be waiting to be rediscovered in the quiet spaces between what we think we know and what we have yet to understand? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these ancient mysteries speaks to you most powerfully? Your insights and perspectives enrich our collective exploration of these enduring enigmas. If this journey through humanity's greatest puzzles has stirred your curiosity and wonder, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue exploring the mysteries that connect us to our ancestors and remind us that despite all our modern achievements, the past still holds secrets that humble our understanding. Until we meet again in the realm of mystery and wonder, sweet dreams, fellow guardians of human wisdom.